Stangibelisco here from the Black Hills of Dakota Territory, United States of America, the Nerd Cave, complete with a wood-burning stove, which is a good thing to have because right now it's about 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside. We've been in the grip of an Arctic air mass here for some time. Panning around the Nerd Cave, there's the telescope. Don't really want to go out and look at the stars with that tonight. For one thing, there's frozen haze in the air. For another thing, this telescope would probably develop condensation that would freeze inside of it if I took it outside. And thirdly, it's too doggone cold to go outside and do that kind of stuff, especially now. There's the black phone. Especially now that we got wind added to the mix. There's my venerable ham radio transceiver, ICOM IC746 Pro. Standing wave ratio meter for the antenna. A couple of displays there showing what you're hearing, which is the PSK band on 20 meters, 14 megahertz. And my Authors Guild website entitled The Magnates of Malarkey, of whom I am the king. There is a laptop computer. You've seen most of this. Maybe not all of it, though. I keep adding stuff to it and taking stuff away. There's my video production computer and the one that I'm writing a book now on. There's some reference materials for the book sitting down there on that meat cutting board. There's the Nerd Cave printed circuit. Yeah, printed in my dreams. Breadboard. Welcome to the Nerd Cave in the Black Hills of Dakota Territory, United States of America. That thing is Hurricane Ike. Remember Hurricane Ike? It centered right over Galveston Bay. I actually took that right off the internet as it occurred. Hurricane Ike. Little test meter. Now all these lights here that you see, they're all LED lights. They only consume something like 1.3 watts each. And they're all on an uninterruptible power supply, which will keep them on if the power fails, and then I can hook the generator up through this little patchwork of cords down here. I would take the generator and connect it and put it right outside the door there, blow the exhaust out so the carbon monoxide doesn't get in the house. Got the wood in the shed. You can't see that though now. Now we're going to have another 10 below zero night. There's the mud, one of the muds and studs on big number 8, and underneath big number 8 you can see, well, if I get I've pulled it way up close to the garage now because in addition to the cold, tonight we've got a new ingredient, wind. And that's going to complicate matters a little bit. There's the infrared lamps underneath there. Now when I got up this morning and started up big number 8, it said it was 16 above zero. But the internet told me that it was 4 below. So I can only surmise that big number 8, the engine compartment under the hood there in big number 8, had been warmed up by 20 degrees Fahrenheit. There's the White Hills in all their glory. The Black Hills, actually. They call them black because they look black from a distance as you drive towards them. Even in the winter they look black. But they didn't look black as I drove down to Sturgis today, and I learned better than to get arrogant with even with muds and studs on the highway to Sturgis. You obey the speed limit signs and the suggested speed signs on that road, because if you don't, you may suffer the fate of 2 of the people that I saw on that freeway, highway, but not on it, they were off it, because they had not obeyed those caveats. Big number 8 starting to get kind of gritty. There's a blanket on there. held down by a couple of pieces of firewood. Well, you can't see the pieces of firewood right now. I'm going to have to put some more pieces of firewood up there on top of big number 8. Now, you call this a redneck scheme. Good. It sure is. If it works, do it. It worked this morning. That vehicle normally when it starts up, you know how vehicles make that groaning noise when it's really cold and you first start them up? Some of them do that. I read about that on the internet. Somebody was really concerned about that. Well, big number 8 does it if it's below 0. And my previous vehicle, old number 7, did it. And the little vehicle, the little red car that I had before that did it. And I've read and I've heard a lot of people talking about that. And they're worried about it. Well, I don't think it's anything to worry about. But I would like to know what it is. So if anybody knows what that is, visit my website, sciencewriter.net. Shoot me an email and tell me what that noise is. You start it up and it goes kind of like it's asking you, what the heck you start me up on a morning like this for? Why don't you just leave me alone? There's a mud and stud. That's not enough to save your life if you're going to insist upon being stupid on ice or slush. Ain't going to be enough. The Black Hills are gritty, and so is big number 8. And I'm proud of it, too. I'm proud of it. My hands are just about ready to get frostbite out here. Because, as I said, we've got a new ingredient added to the cold this time around, and that's wind. And that may complicate matters a little bit underneath there. It may make it a little more difficult for those lights to keep it warm under there. Now, the idea of these lights, I'll show you those again, is that they provide heat to the components under here by radiation. Not by convection or conduction, no, but by radiation. And when you radiate heat onto something, it warms up just as if it were conduction. And that warms up those actual components under there. And I've gotten under there and looked to be sure that this is shining up on the vital components, directly on them. 250 watt infrared heat lamps. And that should keep them a little bit warmer than they would otherwise be, and then they will re-radiate that heat up into the engine compartment and kind of heat it up a little bit like the way that sunlight heats up a... I'm trying to get by big number 8 here. It's parked right up next to the garage door, and there's the old mailbox. No mail on Sunday. Sunday, December 8th, 2013. Black Hills of Dakota Territory, United States of America. All this, you think, wow, this is just kind of rough. You know, why is he fighting all this winter? Why didn't he just go to someplace like Hawaii and live there? I mean, if he's free to go wherever he wants. Well, actually, I'm thinking about going someplace maybe even more rugged than this. But for now, this isn't a bad life, you know? This isn't a bad life, because there's one thing about weather like this. After you've gotten used to the initial shock of how cold it is, and you get to work outside in weather like this, and you go down to Sturgis in weather like this and swim in a pool whose heater has failed. The heater for the air in Deadwood failed the other day. The heater for the water in Sturgis failed today. It's below 0 now. It's going to stay below 0 and be windy. And there's one thing about that. It's good for your health. Not a bad life. Not a bad life at all. Stan Jabalisco, signing off until next time. So long.